Hi, I'm Leonard Adams, and I will be reading a couple of pages from my book, Things I Wish My Father Had Told Me. And I would love it if, after reviewing this video, you were to give it a like on YouTube and share the channel, which is Life and Love Hacks, with others, as well as subscribing to the channel yourself. The pages I'll be reading are 35 and 36. And they are headed with this section. People can be sponges or mirrors. Mirrors are givers by nature. Sponges receive and receive, but will not give until forcibly wrung. When two sponges meet, both seek to receive and not to give. But two mirrors facing each other reflect each other. And it goes on to read this way. This is similar to my advice using the relationship law of multiplication. Saying it this way reveals its effects. Imagine two moist sponges, each facing the other, watching, waiting for the other to move, and neither moves. Instead, they begin to dry out. Imagine one sponge saying to the other, "Hey, you, I need water." Indignantly, the other shouts, "I need water." The first one replies, "Why does it have to always be about you? I was the one who brought it up. You need to tend to my needs." The second sponge, unperturbed, cackles, "Well, I have needs too. What are you going to do about them?" The fight continues while the sponges get drier and drier. And as they slowly freeze into increasingly fixed positions, their lips become harder to move. Still, they continue to argue about their needs not being met. Their screams become muted, unintelligible groans, grunts, then struggles to breathe, and finally, transfixed silence. The state of both sponges is worse than when they began. Now, imagine two mirrors that have attained consciousness facing each other, each looking into the other and each projecting a clear, discernible image. Each sees itself expressed completely, openly in the other. Repeatedly, each infinitely understands, is understood, and each comprehends being understood. Like these mirrors, when people speak, listen, and reflect on the words being said, as well as expressed, each mirrors the other's understanding. And when I make a distinction between what's said and what's expressed, I'm talking about the difference between verbal and nonverbal communication. Because in truth, only 7% of communication is what's spoken or what's verbally expressed. 38% of that is the tone that one uses when one communicates. 55% is the nonverbal communication. So 93% of communication has to do with something other than the words that are being said. At the same time, each examines the emotions felt and the words expressed as dispassionately as possible. In other words, if I want to understand what you're saying, I've got to get my defenses out of the way. I can't, if I have a wall built up before we even talk, I'm not going to hear you. If you have a wall built up before we talk, you're not going to hear me. There's no way that there can be effective communication when both parties are not willing to honestly and openly listen without the wall between them. Use this same means of communication to understand another person and yourself. This can be as simple as summarizing what the other said in a way in which they agree that you understand them. Not simply summarizing what someone says, but summarizing it in a way that they agree that what you summarized is what they actually meant by what they said. Communicating with the other to understand yourself includes interpreting how they see you in a way in which they agree. Honestly, none of us see ourselves objectively. It's pretty much impossible. We're limited by our need to be self-approving. We're limited by our need for the approval of others. And it's hard to really see yourself unless you're willing to look through the eyes of others. If you find yourself getting angry during a conversation, instead of becoming angry, ask yourself, what am I thinking about them that makes me feel this way? Because it's all anger comes from the way you are thinking about something. The reason we get angry is because of the way we think about what's being said to us. This way, you will see where you need to grow. Surrender to the truths thus discovered. Surrender the need to be right, and thus surrender to the opportunity to become who you need to be. It's as simple sometimes as chewing on the meat and spitting out the bones. Something about what they said is probably true. Maybe not all of it, but maybe some of it is. And the trick is to get at that part that is true. When you're speaking with another person, listen as well as you can and invite the other person to do the same for you. It may be hard to listen because you don't agree with everything they're saying, but if you're able to work past that and actually listen, if you're able to, as they say, chew the meat and spit out the bones, like I said. In this way, you will surrender to the beauty of becoming all that you really are. That is, returning to the unfragmented person you were as a little child. It's the power of surrender and the power and the beauty of listening. Thank you for listening. And I hope that you enjoyed the video and that you will like the channel, Life and Love Hacks. Subscribe to it, and I'll see you next time.